As a storytelling-centered podcast, we would be remiss not to talk about the global phenomenon that is romantasy. The boom has been happening since 2020, and even before then with the rise of popular works like The Throne of Glass and ACOTAR series by Sarah J. Maas. But recently, and January of 2026, a TikTok went viral talking about the quality of romantasy writing, specifically Kindle Unlimited recommendations and a lot of just self-published works. And while I don't necessarily want to hate on this creator or spread this sort of negative energy towards her, because I agree with a lot of what she said, I think a lot of her comments are still pertinent today. So I want to explore the relevancy and quality of romantasy literature and romantic literature in general.
Story Step.
It's like book club, but it's more than books, and it's not quite a club. Welcome back to Story Stack. I'm Ansley.
I'm Gabriel.
And I'm Lily.
And today's episode is all about romantasy and why we should stop trashing the people that read it. Lily, take it away.
Yeah. I mean, beyond stopping trashing people that read it, I think that there is just a level of exploration, because there are valid reasons that people have for disliking the genre. So romantasy as a whole is the combination of romance and fantasy. This is where we draw the line here in the balance kind of is a gray area, but I think the implication is that it is romance first, fantasy second. And that, of course, is going to lead to a lot of people feeling dissatisfied within the genre, because anytime you combine two genres, you are pulling in people from both genres, and you will inevitably disappoint some from both sides because you are not doing either side to its full extent. That being said, romantasy is such a popular genre. I mean, millions of people are just so enamored by this sort of emotion-focused plot lines, while also having magical abilities and cool worlds, and different tropes are now accessible to romance that weren't before, because you have this sort of weird, magical, fantastical element. I think that we cannot talk about romantasy without talking about Sarah J. Maas. And whether you like her or not, despite all the controversies that she has gone through and who she is as a person and as an author, she has probably written the most popular and relevant romantasy series, because of the way that her works have now pushed romantasy, I think, into the spotlight. I believe that her works are what has made romantasy such a big player now in literature. She has openly admitted her inspirations between other works, and her love for romance and fantasy it's not, she didn't create the genre, but because her works got so popular, she has pushed it into the limelight. I want to know what y'all's experience are with romantasy and with maybe Sarah J. Maas, with the Throne of Glass series, the A Court of Thorns and Roses series.
I'll pop in first because I'm least relevant. I think that we shouldn't hate people who read romantasy. In fact, we should do the opposite. We should hate people who don't. What do you mean you don't like love? What do you mean you don't like dragons?
This coming from the man that keeps telling me to take my engagement pictures out of our shared Google Drive.
There is context behind that. We have limited storage space in our Google Drive. If that means I need to destroy love, then so be it. Oh my God. Yeah, so I obviously haven't read much romantasy. I'm not the key demographic for it. I do, however, recognize that it is, between it and just general romance fiction, those are the two genres that is keeping the entire literary world afloat, just on a pure financial scale. So as any person who cares about the future of reading and books as an entertainment media, you can't hate on romantasy and romance, because if it didn't exist, the entire prospect of reading books for fun might just collapse.
I think that's a fair point. I personally am a big romantasy girly. I did read ACOTAR in Throne of Glass. I cry every time I read Kingdom of Ash. I think there are sort of levels to enjoying it, and I think that some books that are like, there's a spectrum almost in romantasy of like how fantasy it is versus how romance it is. I'm not against just straight romance books, but I like romantasy because there's also like a secondary plot going on most of the time with the fantasy element. But yeah, I like romantasy. I think I normally use them depending on what it is and depending on like how long the series is, because Throne of Glass is not at all a palate cleanser for me. But some romantasy books are sort of like a quick, all right, let me read something that's a little bit lighter, that's a little bit more like just fun and enjoyable for me, between some of the heavier books that I read for class or read for this or just read on my own.
And I mean, Ansley and I are the primary demographic for romantasy. I mean, beyond being women, and romance novels as a whole are, I mean, pushed and marketed towards women. I mean, we're also young, like, fantasy readers as well. So, I mean, the combination of it seems like we're getting kind of the best of both worlds. And I so agree that there is a spectrum to it as far as, yeah, how far romance, how far fantasy is it going to go? I have probably loved romantasy since reading The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. And some people will say that The Cruel Prince is not romantasy at all. In the first book, you're probably right, like very debatable. Like most of the plot is not romance centered. But when you get to the last two books, romance pushes the plot forward. Like it is all about this sort of relationship between Jude and Cardan that literally gets us from point A to point B. The last book, the climax of the finale is all about Jude fighting for Cardan. It's a romantasy. Holly Black herself knows that it's a romantasy.
We got ate up for this in our comments a while ago when we did a trend, and I had you as a romantasy reader and you were holding Cruel Prince, and some people fought with me and said that it was not a romantasy.
And we will never, I mean, we're not obviously personally responding to each of the comments that disagree, but on here, I can defend The Cruel Prince and say that she's a romantasy. And then, of course, after that, I was reading, dystopian romances like the Shatter Me series, and I was at some point introduced to Throne of Glass because you could not avoid that in the world of romantasy, falling in love with those characters on such an epic scale, because it is a 7-book series. Right, 7? Or is it 8? I think it's 7. I think
7.5, probably including Assassin's Blade.
Okay, yeah, like basically a 7-book series, kind of 7.5, and then this sort of like multiverse that she has now created with the ACOTAR series, with the Crescent City series. I ate all of it up. I was consuming romantasy to such a high extent. I don't necessarily think that, upon reflection, now that I am a college student, that all of that is like the greatest literature of all time. Upon like just like growing up, have really found my love with more fantasy heavy plots. I do love a romance in my fantasy. If you ever read my books, trust there is going to be a romance plot there, because I love love.
This is like the third time I've said it. Story Stack loves love.
Story Stack loves love, okay? But I also don't want love at the expense of good fantasy, good world building. I think that sometimes fantastical elements need to happen, and those are the things that are pushing the plot forward beyond just the like, does he like me? Does he not? We're enemies to lovers. You know, the romance tropes. I think they should exist in there, but they're not the main focus. Things like I'm reading Anathema right now by Carrie Lake, and that from the beginning says like this is not a romance heavy book. Like I'm probably 300-ish pages in, which is about halfway. And like the romance is not the drive of the book at all. And yet I'm so like engaged with the world and the prose. And I also am aware that there is a romance involved in the story. So that is also keeping me engaged in my subconscious. I don't want to be misunderstood in thinking that like I think that, oh, maturity means liking fantasy more than romance, because I don't think that that's the point. My personal taste has just shifted, so I might not necessarily have the most unbiased views. I want to make it honest that I am finding myself in a niche of more fantasy heavy works, but I am here to defend romance as a subplot, as a literary device, to like kind of redeem romantasy as a whole, because I think that the genre is so important, especially when we end up, especially when, like Gabriel said, this is a genre that is helping keep publishing alive, as romance is. And there is also the undeniable truth that the majority of the people reading romance and romantasy are women. So I think I just have to pose the question that we have not, this is the first time we posed it, do we just hate things that women love?
So I think before we move on to that topic of conversation, I think I'm going to slightly challenge you on the idea that romantasy is important. I don't think any genre of media is necessarily important. I think they all serve a purpose. And that's a distinction. And I think that's why, even if you're not a fan of a certain genre, it's not fair to act like it's not relevant or doesn't serve a purpose. Because for some people it does. We talked about this on the dark romance episode. For some people, it serves a purpose. If you're a survivor of assault, sometimes exposing yourself helps you process what happened to you. Sometimes it's wanting to have more empathy for people that go through those situations. And even though it's not my favorite thing, I understand that for some people it serves a purpose, even if that purpose is just enjoyment. And so I think that a critical, crucial part of this conversation is acknowledging that just because something is not for you doesn't mean that you can just shit on it and say that it's not important or that it shouldn't be a thing because it serves a purpose for somebody else. Secondly, hot take. I'm going to piss off so many people. Star Wars is just romantasy. Because watch those prequel movies. Because Anakin Skywalker, his whole character, he is the chosen one. The sequel movies pick that back up. Like, he is the chosen one, and he is entirely motivated by love. Star Wars is a fantastical sci-fi environment, but there is a romance plotline pushing the entire narrative.
Isn't that a bad comparison because the prequel movies are bad? Like, we all agree they're bad?
What did I just say, Gabriel? You can't say that something's bad just because you aren't a fan of it. It serves a purpose for other people, and personally, I'm a big fan of the prequel movies.
Okay, all right.
And I mean, even the first, I guess episodes 4, 5, and 6, there are like multiple different love subplots, but that is just maybe arguably fantasy with the romance subplot.
And that's where the spectrum comes in.
Yeah, it's just where do you draw the line about it? Because Han Solo and Leia do, like, their relationship does have like major plot point, like things that force them to go certain places and do certain things. I mean, we love an enemies to lovers story, and it is very popularly used in romantasy.
Well, I've only seen episode 4, and I really hope that Luke and Leia get together.
Oh my gosh.
I was gonna say, I started that saying I was gonna piss people off. I didn't think it was gonna be people in this room. I didn't think that was gonna be such a hot take.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah. What was it? Do we hate women?
Yeah. So Star Wars being this thing that isn't necessarily pushed towards women. I love that connection there about, I think that people need to recognize what romantasy is at its core. And I mean, I mentioned that original TikTok, and to those that know what I'm talking about and have heard it, like, she is actively like defending good romantasy in her maybe more aggressive approach to calling out bad romantasy, because there is good romantasy out there. And I think that it is important to recognize that it can be well written, and it can also be poorly written. And like Ansley is saying, that doesn't mean that it doesn't have a purpose, especially when you have a genre so massively popular. If it's not for you, that doesn't mean it doesn't belong there. If the book is poorly written, but it's popular, that doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't belong there, because it is serving a purpose for those readers that are consuming that content.
I think it's more of I think this whole conversation just is focused on the wrong people. And it's more often than not, it's like faulting the people that read it. It's faulting the writer. But again, even poorly written books serve a purpose. For me, most of the time, they're palate cleansers. Or it's like just a fun, lighthearted read that I can laugh at and make fun of, but I'm still reading it. I think really the bad guy in this, shooting myself in the foot for future career opportunities, is the publishing industry. Because I think they chase the money. It's not I think. They chase the money. They chase what's popular. And it ends up putting these poorly written books on a pedestal. And I think really, if you have a problem with that, or if you're reading it, it's important to balance what you're reading. And so, yeah, read the poorly written romantasy that's bullshit and is fun to read and a palate cleanser. But then also challenge yourself to read something outside of your comfort zone. Read a classic to see where these tropes are coming from. Read something that is entirely different genre to see what other people are into. I think as long as your tastes are, not your taste, as long as you're allowing yourself to be exposed to different types of writing and you're not solely only ever reading these poorly written things and then treating those as literary masterpieces, that's where the problem arises, when people put them on a pedestal. I don't think there's a problem with them just existing.
And that was the main issue, was people calling these primarily self-published romantasy novels like 5-star literary masterpieces, best thing that they've ever read in their entire life. I think that it's important that we recognize that literacy rates are going down, and to that person, that could be the best thing that they have ever read. And that's not to say that like that person is dumb or like uncultured. It's just the facts of the world right now. People aren't reading as much. And to say like, go pick up a more complex novel, like you're stupid for not saying that, like you're stupid for not understanding more complicated books. Literacy rates are going down. It is a challenge to read more complicated texts right now. You have to, like what you were saying, Ansley, you have to challenge yourself to grow, but it is going to be a challenge. It's hard to read classics, and that's like part of our mission here at Story Stack is to make like more complicated texts accessible, but we're acknowledging the purpose in the positioning of romantasy and other maybe more palatable works, because in a world where literacy rates are going down, if we get rid of those low quality books, there's no gate, like there's no bridge, and less people are going to read. Like, and that's a lose-lose scenario for everyone. I also maybe want to talk about the fact that like a lot of these romantasies that are on Kindle Unlimited are self-published, and that means that there are less gatekeepers to this sort of quality of work that is being put out there into the world. And if you hit like a bit of luck and go viral for your novel, it just means that a shitty book can sometimes get popular. But shitty books get traditionally published all the time too. And it's not just romantasy. Shitty books exist in every genre. And if you mix, if you get that bit of virality in there, a bad book is going to get really popular. I can think of one that I don't want to like necessarily shit on, but like I read an excerpt of, what was it called? Frick. It was popular. Early 2000s, maybe late 90s. Chris Brown? Is that his name?
Dan Brown? Are we talking about Dan Brown? I was about to shit on Dan Brown.
Okay, wait, what's the Da Vinci Code?
Yeah.
Right? That's the book?
What a trash book.
Okay.
What absolute garbage.
Maybe we're going to shit on Dan Brown for a second, because the Da Vinci Code, with the excerpt that I read, was enough to make me know that I will never read that full book because it's not high quality. That's not a romantasy. And yet it is not, it was traditionally published.
Well, Lily, you're hitting the nail on the head here with what the problem is. So the problem is that in order for a book to become mass breakthrough popular, it has to appeal to a very large swath of demographics, and it's the lowest common denominator situation. Most aggressively popular media that you encounter is going to have to dumb down its writing, its messaging, just on the sheer level of reaching that wider audience. And that's not a bad thing. Like these works can exist like that. The thing that always gets me, that makes me angry, is when I see people complaining about the fact that some poorly written book has 5 stars on Goodreads. And it's like, it was what you were saying earlier, Lily. It's that for a lot of people who read this widely popular book, it might actually be the best book that they've ever read. And it's like, yeah, of course it has 5 stars on Goodreads. That's just the nature of what being a wildly popular book is. If you really care about objectively ranking the quality of a piece of media, then these rating systems are practically irrelevant. You need to go find actual book reviewers or movie reviewers or people whose job this is.
I also think something that is fundamental to this conversation is that reading is not just about the quality of the writing. It's about the quality of the story. It's about how entertaining the story is. I have read one singular Colleen Hoover book. I read Verity because my younger sister begged me to. I don't understand why every 4 words are italicized. I don't understand why certain things are written the way they are. I think Colleen Hoover is a garbage writer when it comes to technical craft and skill. But I think the main plot of Verity is so interesting. If you're unfamiliar with it, she's a young writer who's like trying to get a book published, and she ends up being hired to be a ghostwriter for a very successful author who's in an accident and is left in a vegetative state. And this young writer ends up like having an affair with this woman's husband because like he doesn't really have his marriage anymore. But the book ends up being, I would say it's a thriller, right?
Yeah,
like a romantic
absolutely.
thriller. Verity is the author. You learn that she's not really in a vegetative state, that she has been pretending. And the core conflict, the core like plot twist is finding out why she is pretending. But the whole book, there are hints that she's not, that she is aware and capable of movement. And that's sort of the main plot. For me, as a writer, the writing quality of a book is a fundamental part of my experience. I understand that it's not for everybody. So I don't fault the people that love Verity. I would have loved that book if a more technically skilled writer had accomplished it. I would love to see V.E. Schwab's take on Verity. I would love to see Lee Bardugo's take on Verity. You know what I mean? Like, I think the story itself is entertaining, and I think that's such an important thing to keep in mind when you see a poorly written book. Is it a good story? Does it move at a good pace? Does it have compelling characters? So yeah, even if the grammar is wrong and the formatting is weird and the writing is bad, you still have a compelling story.
Not to mention that these authors that are massively popular are really pushed to get these books out at a like expedited scale. So you mentioned you would love to read V.E. Schwab's take on Verity, Lee Bardugo's take on Verity. Both of those authors take a lot of time between publications despite the sort of pressure from fans to get books out. But you got to recognize the reason that they take so much time. The reason you love their books is because they take so much time to write them. The fact that it takes, 3 years for you to get this next book means that they are doing their due diligence. Whereas, and Colleen Hoover started in the romance scene. Romance authors are notoriously on very fast deadlines where you are like writing a book every 6 months, it feels like. And to write, high quality work at that speed is a difficult task. But like you said, like to be a writer reading a book, the quality of writing does play a pivotal role in the way that we are experiencing each story. But also, not every book that we read are literary masterpieces and classics. We just also have the knowledge and skill to not call them literary masterpieces. We're not pretending that they are anything more than what they are. Like you said, you can acknowledge a good plot in the hands of a maybe not the correct writer for it.
Kind of going off of that, though, I think it is important, and we want to clarify at Story Stack, just because we are writing students, we are literally getting degrees in writing, we're being trained on the craft of writing, paying attention to things like word choice and punctuation and grammar, in addition to storytelling elements. When we say something is like high quality writing or that we've been trained to look for a better caliber of writing, That is not in any way us shitting on books that are low quality writing. I feel like saying something is low quality doesn't necessarily, when you're talking about books, when you're talking about writing, doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. And just because we think something is low quality writing doesn't mean that you should feel bad if you read that. Like, I just want to make sure we're clarifying, we're not dogging on you if you like Colleen Hoover or if you like, you know, other popular books that maybe aren't the best written works, but they have good stories. At the end of the day, you like what you like. And I think that as long as you're reading, we're moving in a good direction.
The Dungeon Crawler Carl books are mediocre writing at best. However, I had a lot of fun. It goes always. It's not just romantasy. It's not just girl lit. It's all media. Like you are allowed, and you're supposed to enjoy things that might not be the best quality as long as you are having a good time, you know?
In fact, I hope that people are rating these poor, low quality books 5 stars. I hope that they are, because that means that they are going to read more of that content. They're going to build their understanding of the genre, of characters. And if you just read more, you are going to inevitably realize and recognize good elements of story. You do not need a writing degree to figure that out. And we have all, I guarantee, we have all rated poor quality books 5 stars. All of us, because that is where you start in any genre. If I'm not a big mystery reader, guarantee if I read a poor quality mystery, I might rate it 5 stars, if only because I don't know the genre that well. But like, I think that this is great. So it's just recognizing that you are introducing yourself to something new, and that you are going to read more of it in a world that is not reading. Do not let anyone make you feel bad for reading certain books, because like Ansley was saying, you enjoy what you enjoy. Like Gabriel was saying, it can be just fun. You don't have to be reading these things with this intention of like feeling like you are being pretentious and, oh, I'm reading the best quality work all the time and I just want to talk about this all the time. No, it's allowed to just be fun, and you are allowed to want to read more of that. And when you read more of that, you are going to get better at reading, and your taste for certain works will develop, and you will figure out what you do like and what is just popular.
I think at the end of the day, there are only 3 things that a book has to accomplish for you in order for it to have been valuable for you to read. And that's not to say that all 3 of these have to be hit. But in my experience, in my opinion, when I finish a book, if these 3 things are accomplished, then I feel good about it, whether I liked the book or not, whether it was good quality writing or not. A book should increase your level of empathy. It should expose you to different ideas. It should expose you to caring about new people, even if those are fictional people and characters. And it should get you thinking about situations that you maybe haven't been in before, or thinking about situations that you have been in before in a different way. It should increase your empathy. It should get you caring about other people. Secondly, it should be exposing you to new vocabulary, regardless of if it's a well-written book, regardless if it is a hate read or a positive read. It should be teaching you new words. One great example, I read, not Cersei, Ariadne. Solid book. I think I rated it like 4 stars. It was fine. I learned the word vertiginous. That's an adjective for vertigo. Something makes you feel vertiginous.
Now that's fun.
Right. Regardless of whether you enjoy it, regardless of if it's well written or not, it should be increasing your vocabulary. And third, it should be increasing your attention span, forcing yourself to slow down and read words on a page with the voice in your head, or if you're listening to an audiobook, because those are also reading. I will die on that hill. You are still experiencing something. It might be a slightly different experience, but it's still reading. At the end of the day, it should be increasing your attention span. And I think that's why even books that are low quality, that are not the best written, are important for literacy rates, because at the end of the day, your literacy rate is so closely tied to your attention span, and every other element of media right now is actively eating into your attention span on purpose to destroy it. Forcing yourself to slow down. And I think, Lily, you said it a great way earlier, that some of these low quality books are like gateways to people to reading, more dense books or more quality writing books that are a little bit harder to digest. All of those things come from building a foundation that is, at its base, a greater attention span.
You have to recognize that you love one of those elements, whether if it's the story of a book that you love and it's not maybe the best quality writing, but you had fun and you enjoyed reading it, it's going to push you, like we're saying, to reading those more dense books. But you know that you are now willing to invest that time into those more dense books because you recognize that you do like this genre. You do like this maybe like writing style. You would have just been intimidated by it if your first time reading within that world was some like dense but well written novel. Like it would have been too intimidating for you to even pick it up.
Man, I can't stress enough. Good read ratings are a useless metric. Like I feel like I see it in online spaces all the time where people will be like, oh, I can't believe this book has 5 stars. Like, I can believe it. It's a romantasy book. It's a super popular genre that checks all the boxes for somebody to like have fun. Like,
also, just grain of salt, Goodreads is owned by Amazon. So at its core, it is just a tool for consumerism. It's going to encourage you to buy books. And that, I think, is why the rating system is as whack as it is.
Capitalism gets you again.
At the end of the day, I think these books being gateways are so important because we're not getting the same gateway in education anymore. And that is no fault of teachers in the education system. That is no fault of, I think, anything but the way education is now being structured. And I think the introduction of things like social media and TikTok becoming exposed, like younger and younger kids getting their hands on it. And those things are actively killing your attention span. I mean, I know when we were in school, we had the little Pizza Hut reading challenges. You know, you read so many books and then you get a free little mini pizza. They don't do that anymore.
Actually, I think they just brought it back.
Did they really?
I think that was a news story like a week
okay,
or
then
two
that's
ago.
a win. Go get yourself a little free mini personal pizza. But that's my point, is that even if it's back now, it went away for a period of time. There's not as many incentives to read, but there are opportunities. I have a little brother. He just turned 5 in January. Our local library did a really cute little summer reading program. And they also, like, through it, part of it was just reading certain things, but part of it was also learning about what you actually have available to you at the library. I don't know if this is every library, one in my county, they rent out iPads, but it is only programmed to be a certain, so like he got a dino one, and everything on the iPad was educational games or books or videos about dinosaurs. And so even if you go into these things and you just want the iPad, you don't care about the reading, you're still putting yourself in the library on a regular basis. You're exposing yourself to books and to the opportunity to read. And I think that that's exactly what these low quality books are doing. And really what Romantasy is doing in general, whether it's well written or not, it's something that is appealing right now and it is pulling people into reading that weren't reading before.
Lily, did we answer the question? Do we hate women?
I think that it is well known that StoryStack doesn't hate women, and that we think that, I mean, beyond just romance and romantasy, it's important to recognize that women as a whole are the primary readers of fiction. They're the primary readers, I think, of the world.
Yep.
Like, women are reading. So it shouldn't be like, to call like romance genre girly just because it's not trying to, be for anyone else except women. Like, it's very like heavily, usually written from a woman's perspective, by women, read by women. Like, women just keep romance alive. It's like the facts.
And romance keeps literature alive.
Yeah, I think that it's also important to note that women are reading all genres in majority. So it's romantasy is just getting more hate because of its sort of romantic connotations, and potentially because fantasy is one of the genres that has a heavier male readership foundation. And so to attach something like romance to fantasy is just, it is opening up the doors for people to spread hate. But I mean, I don't think we hate women. I think that StoryStack doesn't, and I think that potentially there is a level of misogyny that might be in the hatred towards romantasy. And there are valid critiques, like we are talking about writing and structure. But just because you have read maybe more of the genre, to recognize the fact that like you like a certain element better, or you value certain level of prose more than someone else, we cannot be hating on the people that are calling them literary masterpieces. Good for them to be experimenting with something new and reading a different genre and getting themselves into reading. That is, we want to see that. We want to see the fucked up Goodreads rating system, because that means that people are reading and that they are loving reading. You rate something 5 stars, that means you loved it so much it's going to stick with you. I remember the first, books that I loved, and were they high quality? No, but at my core, they're the ones that have got me to where I am now.
Shout out to Geronimo Stilton. That's a Story Stack callback.
Yeah. Shout out to Geronimo and Thea Stilton.
I also think, at the end of the day, going back to the idea that every genre serves a purpose, even outside of like the actual reading experience, romantasy books are kind of the cornerstone of BookTok. And that is just another vehicle for connection with other people. And so even if you can't find anything positive to say about romantasy at all, you cannot deny that it's bringing people together to bond over something positive.
And there's a way to do that that's also not spreading hate when you disagree. You just sometimes have to step back, see the good, and realize when it's not for you, it's for somebody else. And like we've been saying this whole episode, it serves a purpose.
So what are y'all's favorite like romantasy tropes? I personally am a big enemies to lovers girly.
Give me a 1-bed trope every day, all day. I need that.
You know the fanfic trope that I wish was used in more books? I like soulmate AUs with like the tattoos where it's like their first word. I wish I could see like a traditionally published romance.
Wait, because why does that only exist in fanfic and then like the POV people on TikTok?
Right. You have 7 words left.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, wait. I have a favorite like thing in romance. I don't know enough about romantasy tropes. Help me out here. I love when like 2 characters who have a romantic connection are like distanced by events, and it's like they both have to like get to each other. Is that even a trope, or is that just how stories work?
I think it's common enough that that's like a pattern. I don't know if it has a specific trope name.
I don't know what to call it. I mean, there's the whole like
star-crossed.
There's the whole star-crossed lovers, but that can also dive into like the things that are keeping them apart. That it's not necessarily distance. And just if you're distant doesn't necessarily mean you're star-crossed.
Maybe just like a miscommunication trope. Because I'm thinking like that was sort of Cruel Prince a little bit when Jude's in the mortal world. And then Cardin's mom was like burning his letters or something. Like that's sort of a distance, and they have to get back to each other.
Let it be known, Gabriel loves keeping the lovers apart.
You're not beating the romance hater allegations, Gabriel.
Exactly.
Story Stack loves love.
In fact,
Gabriel hates love.
What he loves about love is actually when they can't be together.
66% of Story Stack loves love. A majority of Story Stack loves love.